Bonjour. Today I am reviewing Les Travailleurs de la Mer or The Toilers of the Sea by Victor Hugo. This was my final read of 2023 and I cannot wait to tell you more about it. I have both a beautiful French edition of this book and I also have an English one. Now I wouldn't recommend this particular edition of the English translation because first of all, look at the size difference. This was an unabridged version, but the reason why it is so thin is because the writing was so small, like it was super annoying. It was typed next to each other and yeah, wouldn't recommend it. So here's a tip if you're interested in reading an English translation, first find yourself a good one. Before I dive into this story, I want to give you guys some background information as usual. While writing this book, Hugo was in exile on the island of Guernsey due to his political beliefs. This was all about Napoleon III, who was the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon III, who was the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, seized power through a coup d'etat and established himself as Emperor Napoleon III. Hugo never stopped criticizing Napoleon III, his actions and decisions. France suffered from increased censorship, restriction of civil liberties, and of suppression of political opposition. So to give you an example, people were arrested or exiled if they had the wrong opinion. There were restrictions on public gatherings, and Napoleon manipulated elections, and political activists were shut down. Hugo went into exile by his own choice, and he has always expressed his political beliefs in his novels. The Toilers of the Sea was first published in 1866 in Brussels, Belgium, which is half an hour from where I live. You don't have to worry about spoilers as I go into the storyline of this novel and share my thoughts. The beginning of the book starts with a set of interesting characters, but there's actually one character that really matters, which is Gilead, our hero of the story. He is a masterful salesman and he's strong and clever, and people also are kind of scared of him. They're suspicious, they don't like him. Now, one of the characters who is also very important to the story is Monsieur Le Thierry, and he is the owner of a very new invention, a steamboat. The problem is that people on the island, they are suspicious and they call it the devil boat. One day, there's a shipwreck. And the message comes, and Le Thierry, of course, is very sad that his ship is out there and that the engine doesn't work anymore. And Le Thierry has a beautiful niece, and she says that anyone who can fix this engine, I will marry this man. And so Gilead comes forward and he says, okay, I am going to fix this engine, because he has had his eye on this young woman. And he's determined to marry her. And so he sets out to fix the engine. This young woman is called Déruchette. And so Gilead sets out to fix the engine. And of course, things are not going as easy as he thought it would be, because the ship lies in a dangerous place between rocks, where Gilead battles against the forces of nature. Which leads me to the theme of the story. If you have read Les Misérables, then you know that this book is man against society, okay? This book is man against nature. And Gilead gives up everything. He's willing to sacrifice his own life. The entire journey that we follow feels so epic. This is about Gilead, who is our main character. But there is a second very important character, which is the sea, okay? The sea also behaves itself as a character, and it was magnificently done. This is just really an epic adventure story. Now let's talk about the writing style. I will give you a few examples. And by the way, if you're familiar with Hugo's writing style, then you know there are going to be digressions, okay? You just know, and you deal with it. Whether you skip them or not, there were a lot of them in this book, but I didn't really mind. Like, I found it super interesting, and every time that I read Hugo, I feel like I'm learning so much because I start to look up things, you know. For example, there was mention of a very skilled and important sailorman called Jan Baert, and his name interested me, and I started looking things up and I started learning about this man. And this is what I love so much about these references. Like, I'm constantly learning. Something else that always blows me away reading Hugo is he was so intelligent. He knew so much, and here we learn about the, like, just describing the engine and the steamboat and how everything works. It was just, he went into everything in such detail. Also, the details of this sea monster that he is describing, it was like he was really there and that he lived everything in that moment. Like, the way he describes things is as if he was there. I'm not going to tell you anything about this sea monster because it's an important part of the story. I do want to mention that it was giving me a horror vibe. I think there are some horror elements in this novel, and I was there for it. But just like Hugo in his books, I am digressing. So listen to this sentence. Listen to it. To speak accurately, the human visage is a mask. The true man is that which exists under what is called man. If that being which does exist sheltered and secreted behind that illusion which we call the flesh could be approached, more than one strange revelation would be made. Amazing, just amazing. Here's another one, and I think it's a simple one, but it describes how well thought his words are, okay? She walked on with a light and free step, so little suggestive of the burden of life that it might easily be seen that she was young. Here's another one. There is such a thing as the pressure of darkness. Let's think about that. There is such a thing as the pressure of darkness. Isn't that just beautiful? What about this one? What do you think? Where the footstep cannot tread, the eye may reach. Where the eye can penetrate no further, the mind may soar. Now, there is also humor in this book. Like, Victor Hugo has this kind of humor that always makes me laugh. Like, he puts them in, he makes characters say certain things that just make me smile and make me laugh. And I really get his sense of humor. Like, I am on the same page as he. And I don't know about you guys when you read Hugo, but there are so many funny things going on. In this novel, it was Le Thierry who was extremely funny. He had amazing dialogue. I actually marked a piece of dialogue, but I don't know if you guys will get it if I read it, because you kind of have to have the context, and I cannot give you the context because it's at the end of the novel and I would spoil it for you. So we're not going to do that. Also, Hugo must have been quite fond of Voltaire because there are a lot of references to Voltaire in this novel. By the way, this edition, which I, by the way, don't recommend because of the font size, look at how pretty. Like, it's a portrait. It's so beautiful. I love it. I literally gasped when I opened the book. And then I gasped a second time when I saw the font size. Anyway, why don't we read the first part of this book together? Christmas Day in the year 1820 blank was somewhat remarkable in the island of Guernsey. Snow fell on that day. In the Channel Islands, a frosty winter is remarkable, and the fall of snow is an event. On that Christmas morning, the road which skirts the seashore from Saint-Pierre-Port au Val was clothed in white. From midnight till the break of day, the snow had been falling. Towards 9 o'clock, a little after the rising of the wintry sun, as it was too early yet for the Church of England folks to go to Saint-Sampson or for the Wesleyans to repair to Eldad Chapel, the road was almost deserted. Can't you see everything just right before you? Throughout that portion of the highway which separates the first from the second tower, only 3 foot passengers could be seen. These were a child, a man, and a woman. Walking at a distance from each other, these wayfarers had no visible connection. The child, a boy of about 8 years old, had stopped and was looking curiously at the wintry scene. The man walked behind the woman, at a distance of about 100 paces. Like her, he was coming from the direction of the church of Saint-Sampson. The appearance of the man, who was still young, was something between that of a workman and a sailor. He wore his working day clothes, a kind of Guernsey shirt of coarse brown stuff, and trousers partly concealed by tarpaulin leggings, a costume which seemed to indicate that, notwithstanding the holy day, he was going to no place of worship. His heavy shoes of rough leather, with their soles covered with large nails, left upon the snow as he walked a print more like that of a prison lock than the foot of a man. Isn't that just so well written and well described? The woman, on the contrary, was evidently dressed for church. She wore a large mantle of black silk, wadded, under which she had coquettishly adjusted a dress of Irish poplin, trimmed alternately with white and pink, but for her red stockings she might have been taken for a Parisian. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week.